Hello everybody, welcome back to Papa's Saw Shop. I'm Papa, and on my last video, I had an 025 that we were checking for a vacuum leak, and I used the old gas can and showed you one of the little cowboy tricks I use. And so anyway, I got the 025 tore apart, and if you remember right on that video there, I said, you know, it would be a good idea to just take the whole engine out of it and just take a look and make sure, you know, of what you get going on. So I wanted to show you my last parting words were in that video, as I said that there's an 80% chance that oh, excuse me, getting kind of chilly out here. Pardon the voice still. I'm still working with this doggone cold. Anyway, so on the last video, I said there's probably an 80% chance that it's a seal leaking, but it could be leaking next to the seal. All right. So there's a couple of things I wanted to show you on here, because and again, this video is not for the amateur. All right, I do videos for amateurs, and this is not one of them. Okay, this is one of those that if you're putting an engine together or something like that, you know, this is some of the things you ought to know. So this is the 025 engine, all right, and when we were spraying it with the gas can, we were spraying it right here, all right, and if you remember right, on that we noticed, let me pull this thing out of here, we noticed that there were some rough spots around the bottom of that cylinder, or around the bottom of that seal. And so now I have not taken this thing out. Okay, I just pulled this thing out, just pulled it out of the case. But I do want to show you, because as I was pulling it out, I said, oh, good golly, Miss Molly, I can see exactly what's going on, and it ain't good. And it's something that everybody ought to know if you're going to put one of these things together. So let me get pulled up in my chair here. I'm going to turn this around so you can see it, and then I'm going to hit the flashlight on here. All right, now we're going to try and get this light so that, all right, now, again, you just saw me pull that belly pan off of there. So you can see all the moisture on that seal right there. You can see how wet that seal is. That guy is leaking right around the outside of it for sure. And what I was surprised to see is on the flywheel side, it's leaking just as bad. Now, what I'm really shocked to see, and this is just, doggone it, I hate to talk bad about people, I really do. And if you've bought a saw from me, you know, I mean, there's sometimes, you know, I'll forget a screw, or you know, or some damn thing, you know. Nobody's perfect. Oh, pardon me. Nobody's perfect. But when you've been doing this for a lot longer than I have, and you're making millions of dollars doing it, it seems to me like quality control ought to be a little bit better. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now I'm going to show you what my issue is. All right, so I'm going to pull this thing up just a little bit. I'll pull that crankshaft up a little bit. We can see those bearings in there. Those bearings look good. Okay. There's plenty of movement in there. Now, look at that seal. Doggone it. And if you don't see it yet, well, here's the flywheel side. Let's pull that one off. You see that? It's more important what you don't see, and I'm gonna keep turning it around until you do see it. Ooh, let me get in the camera there. Now you see it? You see the sealer? And that little tiny spot right there. That's it. That's all the sealant that there is in this thing. if I turn this sideways, oops, I turn this sideways and I leave that thing out of there, you can look right down in there. There's nothing. There's no seal at all in there. There's nothing in there. All right. Now the other thing, you remember I told you there's an 80% chance that this guy was leaking, at least 20% chance on the rest of the gasket. Look at this. Can you see that? I'm just going to get this little fuel rod here and I'll point it out to you. Look at how wet this is. Right here. You see this? Yep, that'd be gas and oil. All the way around the outside. This is hardly even, there's hardly a lip there at all. So, let me put this little bearing sealer back in there. You can really see it on the belly pan. Look at how wet that damn thing is. Look at this. All the way around here. Now, this should be, this has got fluid inside. Look at that. Right down in there. You see it down in there? This, if it wasn't so tragic, it'd be funny. But this right here, yeah, there's gas and oil down in there. That's where this sealant right here is supposed to be. It's supposed to be stuck down in there. It's not supposed to do that. That ain't right. So basically what happened is that they did not, and this hasn't been torn open. I mean, this is all original here. Another shop put carburetors on it. Another shop, we put a coil on it. Another shop put the boot on it. But nobody's taken this thing off. Nobody's taken the engine out of this machine until now. So the last person that had this thing taken apart was the person who put it together in the first place. So what they did was they put a couple drops of sealant on this guy. I suppose they were probably just running out in their tube. I don't know. And then they did not clean the surface of the belly pan. And so they filled this belly pan up with it being dirty or greasy or who knows what. Whenever I do one of these, I put a little clean towel. If you got some t-shirts or something laying around, some old t-shirts you want to get rid of, rip those things up into shreds. And that's what I use. I put that old t-shirt over my shoulder, and then that thing, I use that, and I look like I got some kind of an issue because I got soapy water over here, and I'm putting my hands on it, and I'm wiping my hands off, and I don't get the oil off my fingers. I just don't. I'm paranoid about having anything on that belly pan or anything on that seal or anything. The only thing you ought to have on there is metal and, aluminum and sealant, and that's it. You shouldn't have the natural human oils on your skin. That shouldn't be on there. You shouldn't have gas. You shouldn't have nothing else. Nothing. Just the aluminum and the sealer, and that's it. And if you got to wear rubber gloves to accomplish that, do that. I got a banged up finger that it doesn't turn, so I have a hard time wearing rubber gloves. But anyway, I guess we can feel somewhat relieved that we found the issue in here. We can feel a little bit disappointed for this poor fella that they went out and bought a saw, and they forgot to clean the surface when they put the sealant in. So anyway, again, if you're doing that in your shop and you put a saw together, and let's not beat up on everybody. If you're just doing builds, and things happen. But if you're going to claim to be a a major worldwide company and quality is number one and don't buy nothing else, buy this, well, I don't know, it seems to me like you got to strive to be a little bit better than that. So, anyway, I'm picking on people and I don't like doing that. Makes me in a bad mood. But what I'm mostly saying is here, and let's take away from bad mouthing everybody. What I'm mostly saying, especially on these little guys, on the 025s and the 017s and the 018s, and, even the 036. They're kind of an older. I've got an old 036 over here that needs a bunch of stuff, but these are put together a little bit different than, of course, than what these are. But the 036 has got a big seal in the back of it there, and if those are not put in with some sealant, and I mentioned the 036 just because I see quite a few of those. What kind of sealant to use? I'll tell you what kind to use. Where's my sealant at? Up here. It's up here on my top shelf. Doggone it, I'm going to have to get up and look for it. I'll show you here in a second. I got it right here. Now this is the kind I use. It's the the red high temp RTV silicone instant gasket. That's the kind I use. I honestly don't know what this gray stuff is. Maybe you can leave a comment down below down there and tell me what you think is. I mean, it's some kind of silicone, of course, but the sealer that is on there, I mean, I can just it's I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it's almost, I guess it's been broken down a little bit from the gas passing by it, but I mean, it's real flimsy. There's nothing to it. I mean, I probably won't even need a razor blade to clean this thing off. I just clean it all off with my fingernail. I mean, there's nothing to this stuff. So I don't really know what this stuff is. It almost looks like home sealant, what you'd use in your bathtub. It has that kind of consistency. I mean, you can, here, I'll show you where I scratched it off my finger. Look at that. That's almost as clean as what I would have to do with a razor on anything else. So, I mean, I guess I'm telling you what I know. And as far as I know, no one else has been into here, and I would hope for the maker of this saw that I'm wrong, that they didn't put it together like this. Somebody else has been in here, and because man, that's no good. But anyhow, I'm going to show you here real quick because I got a few more minutes left. I'm going to take this old gasket, this old seal, and I'm just going to show you. I mean, we're going to put new seals in this one, of course, but I need to clean this one up anyway. But I want to show you when, as I'm saying, make sure that these things are all sealed in here. I want to show you what it is I'm talking about. If you're saying, well, fine and dandy, Papa, it all ought to be sealed. Well, what the heck are you even talking about? What do you mean just sealed in there? I just throw the seal in there and call it good enough. Oh no, that ain't what you want to do, folks. Now, and I've been doing this method for years, and I've just never had any seal problems. I mean, as far as what I have with a problem with the seal, mostly is that there's a little spring right in behind there, and So this is another thing I'm going to show you here real quick. When you put seals in to an engine, whether it's a chainsaw or whatever, you're putting seals in, look at it. Give a good once over. Look at it. Because there's one thing that you don't know, that you have no way of knowing. It's impossible for you to know. How long did this thing sit on the shelf or sit in the warehouse before you got it? Now, why does that matter? Well, it matters because this is made out of rubber. And the longer the rubber sits, the more brittle it gets. And so what you want to do when you get a seal, you're getting ready to put it in, let me hold this up here. You want to put your fingers on here and you just want to bend that middle piece. Okay? You just want to move that around a little bit. Make sure that's flimsy. Okay? Make sure that the outside of it is not flimsy, but it should feel like a hard tire. Almost like a hard mower tire, on the outside of a hard mower tire, and you shouldn't have any. I've seen some of these, I throw them right in the damn trash. It irritates the heck out of me. Most seals are going to have that little line right there. Let me get right there. You see that? That's just where the rubber came together, and that's where they wrapped it around and they heated it up or whatever the heck they had to do. I don't know, maybe they put it in a cast and take it out of cast there. But anyway, that's where two pieces of something came together right there. Now, what I've seen before is that, and this one's got a little bit of it just from being in there. There you go. See a little indent right there? Now, this is a used seal. Obviously, it just came out of here. So, what I've seen, what makes me throw these things away and yell at my parts man, is that right where that crease is, sometimes you'll actually have a gap where that crease is. You can just stick your fingernail in that gap. Don't think for 1 minute that you're going to put some silicone in there and that'll make everything better, because it won't. It's not. You're never going to fix that. It's a flaw from the factory. It's garbage. Throw it away. Start all over again. Okay? All right. So, on a seal, right behind there is do you see that right there? You go. You can see it right there. See that little spring? That holds this rubber piece in place. Now, maybe we'll make another video of how to put these seals in. This one right here on the 025, it's got this little ring right here that holds that seal in place. Now, that's all fine and dandy, except for when you take that out of there, you got this little ridge right there. When you run that seal across that ridge, guess what happens? It gets hung up on there and you don't feel it, and it pops out of there, and that little spring right there pops out, and you'll never know it, because you put your sealant up there, put your seal up there, you push it up there. It's not a powerful enough spring so that it goes, oh shoot, something just fell out. No, you don't feel it. You'll never feel it. So I'm going to show you another video, because we're going to wrap this thing up here, but I'm just going to show you here how I put these seals in, how this ought to have been done. Okay. All right. Now we got our red silicone. You take, and what I do is I use my little screwdriver. Now there's a line right here. See that line right there on the other side of that seal? Right here. Do not go past that line. Right here. Right there where that seal is going to sit. Don't go past that line with any silicone. Okay? You do not want to get silicone inside that engine. That's a bad place to be. Alright. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little dab right there, and we're just going to paint it right in there. And there we're going to paint. Now, you see me staying away from that line? Look at that. I'm staying away from that line in there. Now, I don't want to get all the way to it, because something is going to happen when you put that seal down in there. All right. Now, what I do from there is I put the seal on the engine, okay? And then this thing just sets right down on top of it. So when this sits down on top of it, I'm going to show you here how this seal should have looked like, okay, if it was properly sealed in there. We're just going to set that right down on there, right where it goes. All right, now look at the back side of that. You remember how we stayed away from that line? Now look at that. It's still on the other side of the line right there. See, it's still on the back side of the line right there. Now here's the trick. You ready? Before you put the seal on the engine, turn this. Just a little. Just not too much. About a quarter turn. Okay? Now, what you're doing is you're smearing it into that thing. Now, look at all that seal. Look at all that sealant that's on that seal. All right? Look at all this sealant that is in there. Now, I have not cleaned the other side. You can see where the black part of that seal is rubbed on there. Now, if you're still not convinced, I'll take my little screwdriver. Let's just grind that out right there in front of you. Let's see what's in there. Oh, there ain't nothing in there. Okay, now let's pretend that this has been sitting in there. Seems to me I'd be peeling that out with a razor or a screwdriver or something. That would have dried down in there. Okay, there was never any sealant down in here. So all that black right there, that's that oil that's been rushing past that seal, the hot oil that's been staining this and rushing past it. So that last video you seen where that saw was falling on his face, well, that's why I didn't do that right. Now I'll show you one quick thing before I go. How do you seal the belly pan? All right, one more time. You want to stay away from that center. You want to stay away from this middle right in here, okay? The whole idea is to get sealant down into the crease, okay? That little ditch in there. All right, so you get some sealant down in that ditch right there. Now when you're done, you should not be able to see that ditch, okay? I'm going to show you how I want you to do it. Okay, we're just going to paint it on there with a small screwdriver. You want to make sure you stay away from the engine. I'm going to do this one little piece here, just so you can see how I stay away from the engine, because that's really important. Now I'll tell you why I'm painting this on here. Why? I mean, it's obviously it's important, but I'll tell you the mishap that I had one time putting silicone on a belly pan. I was building one of these little doggone saws, and I want to say it was an 025, but it was an 025. I was building it for a friend of mine, and I just got started, and shoot, I'm a big shot. I don't have to test it and run it, and yeah, he got here and he said, "Well, is my saw ready?" I said, "You bet, start her up." "Oh, that's all right, you start it." So I started up, started right up, first try. First pull, started right up. I hadn't even started yet. And it ran for about 30 seconds, and it locked up. What in the heck is going on? Well, I tore it apart. I had a heck of a time getting that doggone piston out of that cylinder, but I got it out of there, and I found a streak of dry red silicone right up the side of the rings and right up the side of the silicone. It wasn't dried inside the silicone, but it was just like a big old string. It looks like a big old silicone spaghetti string stuck right in there, just locked it all on. But so anyway, yeah, I pulled that spaghetti string out of there and cleaned her up a little bit and fired her right back up again. But so you want to make sure you stay away from that, because just a little bit, it'll just stretch all the way through there. All right, so there's how I did that. See how I stayed away from that? I stayed away from that center right there. All right, now we're just going to slap this thing on here real quick, just so you can see how it ends up when we're done. I'm pretty sure I'm putting this on backwards, but for what we're doing, doesn't really matter. Okay, now we're going to peel her back off. Now, you see what happened? It traveled to the inside. Okay. See there? But it did not travel to the inside of the engine. Okay? Now obviously, you should have more than that. You got to really fill that ditch in there. Okay, because we should have a little bit more of a hump inside there than what we have. But that's kind of the gist of it. You want to make sure that that ditch is completely full, and you want to make sure that you keep everything away from the away from the inside. All right, when you take it apart, I'll give them this. They did have that ditch full, because I can see the ditch. I can just see the ditch right here. But it should, generally when you pull these apart, this will just kind of string apart. I mean, it's old glue, and so you'll have streaks of it coming back and forth here. It doesn't just pop apart here and you got a perfect indentation. That shouldn't happen. So anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. Kind of see my breath. It's getting a little cold out here. So got both doors open in the shop and getting a little breezy. So I'm going to turn off the Tom T. Hall and shut down the doors and call it a day. And tomorrow we'll put some seals in this thing and clean her up and see what we can come up with. So anyway, I appreciate you stopping by, and till next time, be careful out there, and happy motoring.